Hi everyone, this is Tobias speaking. Sitting here together with my colleague Cahit, we will today introduce you about the topic Debugging UI5 Applications. We'll run with Chrome, do a basic overview about the development tools there, and also go into the specifics of sub UI5 and how it helps you with finding out what's wrong with your application. So Cahit will present later. I will do the first part. It's about the source panels of the Chrome. And we picked these nice Fiori applications you're seeing here. It's the the timesheet application. We did not build it, so we just picked a random Fiori app. And well, let's see how to debug this. First thing you want to do is if you're on a page, there's F12, and you open the development tools of Chrome. We're using Chrome because it's currently the best support for debugging applications. Sometimes you're forced to use a Firefox or IE. We would not recommend you to use it as a default, but well, some issues only if you're in this browser. We'll come to later how you could also maybe try to debug this in Chrome. And so the first thing I'm seeing here is the sources panel. What's happening here, we have in Fiori Launchpad normally, we have a very ugly source. Here's our application. It's called ACM timesheet. And here's something like called component preload. It's a merged file of a lot of JavaScript files, so it only takes one request to the server to load the entire script, but it looks really, really ugly. So if I want to set a breakpoint here, I will have a very, very hard time finding the right thing. So what I want to do is now, in my application, here's a calendar, and I want to see what happens if I change the month here. So what I already know is that on my controller, it's in this namespace HCM, and he's giving me autocomplete. I know it's BMP dot and my timesheet. And if I sometimes accidentally close this or get a wrong one, I can press Control space to open the available properties. So my controllers are normally in a folder view, and I'm now at the S2 controller. So here this doesn't help yet, but I know that I have a function. Functions of controllers are normally on the prototype, and it's called something with, wait a second, forgot it. On calendar month change. So I know I want to have this on calendar month change function debugged. So first thing I can do, I can view this function. So this still looks ugly, and I can click this one. It will point me to the right direction, but well, now I'm seeing here's the function, but setting a breakpoint here will be really hard. So what I can do, I can press this button. It's pretty print. So now I can at least work a bit. It's not the same as the source code you develop with, but well, the function display is a bit nicer. And the first thing I can do is I can add a breakpoint here. Shortcut for this is Control D. And I will emphasize a lot of shortcuts because it's really helpful. You can also view them if you go in the settings system. And here is a shortcut section. And it gives you an overview about all panels, what's available in the console, elements panel, and we are currently on the sources panel. I will not read them out now, I will just mention if I use a shortcut. So as you see here, also the line changed. Now if I click this, I will end up in line 617. So Chrome knows exactly where this function is. And even if I scroll to another thing and I click here again, I'm on the function I'm looking for. So what I can do now is I set a breakpoint, I can click here and I hit it. So first thing I want to show is not my call stack, my scope variables. So currently it shows me everything that's currently available in this JavaScript code. It says D, it's undefined, because right now we're breaking. The assignment of D has not taken place yet. The E is the event of UI5 passed, so I can view all the properties of the event here. It says which control it fired and stuff like this. Also parameters like the current date that we use here. So I can view all this. And if I like and I want to see stuff more frequently, I can also add watch expressions. So I can say get parameters dot current, and I did a typo, but it will evaluate this statement. So I can also watch stuff. Now it's the 1st of October. I press F8. F8 means continue. Now I'm not hanging in the breakpoint anymore. So as you see, this is grayed out, not available currently. But if I go to the next month, we'll say November the 1st. So this is how you use watch expressions. And now this is all good with the breakpoint, but there are also other ways. So maybe I want to break on a certain condition. So I can say I only want to break if, notice it's right click, edit breakpoint. I can put something e.get parameters current state dot index of no is not -1. So now I will only break if it's November. Oh, sorry for this one. If I go back here, go to December, nothing happens. If I go back, oh, I hit the breakpoint. Cool. So I can break on certain conditions. That's very useful, but I can also misuse this feature a bit. So another thing I can do here, for example, there's a command here in the Chrome. It's called console, and it can log something. So I'm logging hello world to the console, and it will write this one. What I can also do is use this inside here. So I'm not returning anything. It's not returning a condition, but I can also use this to log my parameters. If I don't want to have the watch expressions and always break on this, then I can do something like this. I can change the time to time, and I see it changed to October and September without breaking. So it's very useful for writing custom logs in there without actually breaking on a breakpoint. So this with the minified sources, it's sometimes really hard. This is called E, this is called D. Everything in the local scope will get renamed, and it's really sometimes a pain. If there are a lot of variables, it's really hard to find out which one's what. So we'll just, in UI5 there's a possibility to use debug sources. I will use a shortcut, Control-Shift-Alt-S. Cahit will explain a lot about this later. I'll just use the technical information, and there's debug sources. I can turn this on. Now UI5 will tell me, well, reload the page. What it will do, it will not load the minified component.js. It will send a lot of requests now. Yeah, I'm viewing the console to see what's going on. And it already loaded. Now if I go to my application, I can see, oh, there are a lot of more files, and I finally find my S2 controller. But it's really a pain to go through all these files and find the right files I'm looking for. So normally I know the file I look for. And cool shortcut is if I go on the sources panel, I can just, here it says hit Control O to open a file. So I'm doing this, and I can now say S2, and now you notice there's -debug. That's the actual thing I want to debug. And now I open this. Well, I got lucky because I ended up on the line where I want to go, but imagine I will start here. I can press Control-Shift-O, and to get all the functions the controller can, and I can just pick one and will navigate to this very function. Another cool thing you can do in Chrome is, if you click here, breakpoint, we'll do this, and I hit it. Now I can modify the actual code. This only works if you load the debug source. It doesn't work with minified sources. You can do something like console.log date. It's the same thing, and now I press save, Control-S. We'll wait a bit, and then here it says in the console, recompilation and update succeeded. It will hit the breakpoint again, so it will re-evaluate the function. And now, I see if I continue with F10, I will hit the log statement and will log the file. And I can also, another cool thing is, now I set the breakpoint, maybe I have a lot of breakpoints, and it's always annoying to step through them. I can deactivate them. So now this is grayed out, but the code will still run through. So if I go here, change this again, then again, we don't see the log statement yet because it logs here. But what we can do is also filter for S2. And here we see that it actually changed the daytime to September and August, what I just did. So this is also very useful. I can filter the console and see, I can also filter for different levels. I'm currently logging on the log level. That's the default level of the console. There's an API for the console. You can write to the other log levels too if you want. Also something from UI5 that helps you writing to these log levels, cross-browser specific. And also useful button clear the whole console. So you see I modified the code live and Chrome can recompile the stuff. So that's very amazing. Another thing I want to show is the stack trace. So I activate my breakpoint again. Click on the next thing. Did not hit it. So close this one. Now it is hit. Well, and Chrome lately introduced this feature in the standard. So all we are showing, you need really one of the latest versions of Chrome. So it's always good to keep Chrome up to date. They build in really amazing features. So what I can see here is not only the stack trace. So here I can have the stack trace, and let's just go also to the scope variables. Here I see my local scope. I can go one step up in the stack. This is the UI5 code, and I can see the different scope variables. So if I traverse the call stack, I can see everything and which parameters called my function. And the thing they introduced with this async is that I also see stuff that happened before the click. So previously I was only able to see the stack trace till here, because before that asynchronous stuff would have taken place, but now Chrome gives me the possibility to see what happens before the click. So this is really useful if someone uses a set timeout. I will get the one registering the timeout and also the scope of this timeout. It's really useful. And if I go further up, here if you see a set timeout, I can see that the Fiori Launchpad once set one, and I also can look at the scope again. The cool thing about this scoping is also if I go here, and for example, I want to use something from my scope, I can just write here the this pointer, and it will be the same this pointer that's currently in this scope. So this is currently pointing to the controller. If I call get metadata, I can see it's the S2 controller. And I can also remember this one. I can say, oh, controller is equal to this. And this will introduce a new global variable. And as soon as I continue with F8, I still have access, oh, sorry, typing in the wrong thing. I still have access to this object outside. So here I still, on my running application, I have access to the controller of the view. And I can also do something like get view of this one, I return the view, and I can say by ID, calendar. Oh, I think I did a typo. Let's just see. I wrote it down for me. Calendar. Sure. So, and I get the instance of the control. So I'm here. I can also save this reference, and I can reuse it and also call a function on it. And I get a good overview of what my calendar can do. So I'm also getting the internal properties of UI5, and I can really look into the stuff we are doing. Another thing that's really good is this one will fire probably a few events. For example, what it does have on touch move, on touch start, on tap. This is likely a function. Yeah, but also it will have some native UI5 events. And what we can do is we attach, what do we attach? Tap on date. Yeah, we can attach tap on date. And we can add have another cool feature of the Chrome development tools. I can add a custom anonymous function in there. Oops. Attach change range. Let's pick this one. And there's a keyword called debugger. This one you should really not use in your API. This will in your IDE and write it into your code. This one is meant to use like this. So if you want to set a breakpoint anywhere, then use breakpoints, not the debugger statement. So please don't write in your code something like this, because it will always break on this thing, and you will never, well, you will always hit this one. And so, but here in the attaching of events, it's really useful. So I can attach this, and now I can change the range. I think I do it like this. No. Probably I navigated now in the wrong. Now I hit it. No, this is the wrong breakpoint. Probably it's not the right event. What else does it do? Attach change current date. Yeah. Do this. Think. No. Did also not work. Now I'm hitting it. So here I'm now at my function. It says now VM something. So this is injected code from me. I can see it in the call stack, an anonymous function. I passed it in there. It's exactly the code I wrote, command line API. And I'm hitting at the stage where UI5 fires the event. I can also really see what happened. It's done by a click, and can also see in the scope again what's happening here and what parameters get passed. So this is really useful in attaching on my events. I can also add an event delegate on after rendering. For example, it would be like this. Can add an event delegate. This means this function gets executed every time on after rendering takes place. Not do it right. Ah, yeah. Right, there's a bracket missing. So now I can continue this one with F8. And I can also force it to re-render. Oh, no, did not work out. Well, one didn't want to go too deep into this. Normally this one works. Maybe I did a typo. So we'll go to the next topic. Did I want to show? Oh yeah, now I've prepared something. I will reload the application. Another thing that frequently happens, I did an error in my application, and well, I just want to find out where the error is. So I did a little hack here, and now Chrome has a cool feature here. Very small button, but it's very useful. It says pause on exceptions. I can also say pause on call to exceptions. Well, that's sometimes a bit annoying. I want to pause on uncalled exception, indicating blue. And if I no, it doesn't turn to purple. They turned it off probably. So I can now change this. And well, currently I'm hitting my breakpoint, so I'm disabling this one. So I can also disable unique breakpoint. I don't throw an error. What I can do is I provoke an error. So what I will do is state is equal to undefined. Again, well, this won't work out because here I'm directly calling a function on undefined. I'm not saving it yet. Need to go to print. Did not recompile it yet. Re-enable the breakpoint. No, it already did it. So here it's taking the new one and it's breaking exactly. Now it's breaking on this exception breakpoint. So I'll show it again. I go here. I will go into a breakpoint here because I'm pausing on called exceptions, and I will see what's currently wrong. I also get the message, and I can analyze what went wrong. Well, in this case, it's really easy because the date is undefined, and you can also get a tooltip here, what's happening. So that's basically it from my side, from the sources panel. I think I covered almost everything here. There's a few things maybe Cahit will show. It's about XHR breakpoints, but it's also coupled with the network panel. So I will hand over to him and, well, enjoy his session. I will just clear this one for him because let's start all over. Hello everybody, Cahit is speaking here. So I would like to show you the network panel. Actually, most of the time, the developers are using network panel to optimize their applications, not for most of the time debugging. So let's start what is going on with the network. So when I look at first the screen, so if I press escape, the console will be closed. So we can see that there's a lot of the loading is ongoing here. And they are sometimes very important to understand what the application is doing and what is going on. The first thing is here is using large resources or small resources. Actually, large resources gives us a lot of information. For example, here I can see that everything is gzip. because the size on the top line is the size is less than the bottom line, because this means the original size is 14 kilobytes, but the gzip size is 3.8. So I understand the gzip is on for every resources here, which is very cool. So that means we don't have an optimization issue here about the gzip. And the other thing is actually we can just shrink this one to see more. The timeline is actually very important. So here we see the first one is the blue line, and the blue line here, they're almost the same actually. You see, and there's also a red line here. So the blue line is for the DOM content event loaded event. This means if you know the jQuery, it's about the ready function of the jQuery. This means the DOM is parsed. But afterwards, the resources start loaded. Then we see here that I can actually zoom here a little bit. Control plus. Okay. Not easily we can see it, but it means it's actually very good. This means there is no too many resources, so the images and the fonts or iframes will be shown as in the red line here. So here, actually there's a lot of things that I can explain here, but we don't want to look all of them because here the water flow analysis is completely different topic. So here, for example, we see that there's a waiting for 65 milliseconds, which is actually makes sense for the HTML page because it needs to wait all the resources the JavaScript is loading and images. But there's a very good response time actually. So afterwards, the receiving just takes 4 milliseconds. So it shows us quite fast server. And here also, the other thing we can just maybe take a look is the response code is 400. So here I see that the resource is not cached. If it's cached, it should be 304. So we can actually do a lot of stuff to understand our application, what is going on. How we can use this one as for debugging is, for example, whenever the application sends an XHR request to the server, we can add a breakpoint and look who is initializing it and who started this code. So to do so, we can, for example, go to the resources panel, and there's here a section for XHR breakpoints. So here, for example, we can stop for every XHR breakpoint, and then we can understand who was initializing this one. Or if you are interested just for the sources that sending a limit, for example, we can add here. We can add an search character here, or for example, if you are interested with the filters, for example, we can add some who is filtering it, and we can add this one. So currently, we can just take one of this one and look into who is initializing this. So when I can clear this one first to understand. And when I press here, so I can actually make it on the right-hand side, would be maybe better. Okay, now this is actually another exception. Here's also another cool feature I would like to show you. I can stop the pausing of the debugger for a half a second, and so it will go away. And here, when I look at the network tab, so when I press this one, okay, maybe I should really stop the debugger. Okay, so let's go again, the network tab, and clear again. And when I press this one, I can see that there are 2 requests is ongoing. So I can, for example, look at this filter, who is initializing. So if I don't know who is initializing or doing something, other stuff, we can just look into this one. For example, let's go to here and enable our breakpoints again, and we can add an XHR breakpoint for filter. So now when I press this one, so this should be necessary. Now we are getting a 404 from the server. Okay. once again. So let's go to the sources part and filter available. And now whenever the resources, I think this is at the moment minimized, right, Tobias?
Yeah, it looks like it. The ABAP, there's a special file, ABAP.js.
Oh, actually, it was there because it was minimized. We were not able to see it. So here you can see that XML request is before the send to the server. Just we have a breakpoint, so we can see that who was initializing this in the code. Because here someone is trying to submit a request, and we can look into the request, and even if it's an asynchronous or not, we can just check because. Sometimes if you have a batch request, it can be asynchronous, and you can have a look. It's a asynchronous request, and you can even check it's a batch request. So we can have full code stack to play around with this request. At the moment, the request is not sent actually, so we have a breakpoint here. Maybe I should minimize it. So here. The request is not sent yet. So after we press F8, and then request will be started, and we will be able to see it on the network panel. And this was for the other filter, and we can let it go. And then we see that two filters are coming here. So we can look into this one, how the response is coming. For example, the first tab, the header tab, we can see that that's very good. For example, the response header, we can see every response and the request headers. We see that there's no cache stored, which is not good actually. So the caching this means stopped on the server, but it can be also maybe it's an activation of your debugger because we disable the cache during the development, and that's why maybe this is the reason. But actually, and we can look into this other tabs, the response, what it comes from the server. So if you look at this one, it's almost not readable. So if you want to make it readable, it's very cool to look at the preview tab. And in this tab, we can look, if it's even it's an XML view, we can look into it as a tree. And here you can see everything that you need to see. So about the response. So one of the other cool features of the Chrome was, so you can look at the resources. Okay. Here, for example, I can right-click on this one and we can store it as a global variable. And unfortunately, this feature is not working in Chrome for a while, and they have a ticket for it. But what we can do is actually we can go and take this one if you want to debug and take a look a little bit. For example, I will just save it as a data. Since it's a JSON object, I can just save it as a JavaScript object too, and we can just take a look. So what the results are inside. Here you can see that there are how many items, and actually one of the cool features is you can use some console parameters, which is called console.table. So you can look into the details of the array of objects as a table view. Okay. Not visible at the moment.
I said a filter.
Sorry, the filter was here. Okay. Cool. So you should be careful if you had a filter. Okay, let's do it again. Okay, this was our result. And here we said console.table, and you can see that the view is the table view. And you can, if you want to compare the data you need, then you can here take a look. You can make a comparison, even you can make a sorting. And this feature is very important, I think. Okay. And if you the other important thing, if you want to copy one of the data, so here, for example, results. So we would like to just look into the first of them. Okay, so we can see only the first of the data. And if you need to copy, then we can use for example, we would like to have open a ticket and it's like say, hey, look, friend, here the data is not correct and it doesn't match to the view, and you can actually copy the result to the memory. So now if I pass something, you see that it's a serialized as an object. So you can copy it. You can copy any variable in the Chrome console to your clipboard as an object representation, as a string representation. Okay. There are lots of stuff to talk about this network panel, but I would like to now skip this because this may need another session to have a look at what the performance is costing, about like looking into the timeline and doing profiles. That's why I would like to show you now how we can look into the elements panel. So the reaction with the DOM. So what we see at the elements panel is actually what we should see in the document object model of the browser. So when you select one of them, you can see that it gets highlighted, so it's quite easy to select one of them. And this feature is quite useful. For example, we can look into here, we can come here and just look into any variables. Okay, we have breakpoints already there. And now, for example, I can look into this one, what kind of control is it? So instead of looking into the details, so it's a label, and actually I can just select this item with using the shortcut of the $0 of the console API. And here I see the DOM and what it should be. And if you need to look into the details of this one, for example, properties, you can use also the console directory property, and then you can see here all the properties that it has, for example ID and stuff. What is also a new cool feature of the UI5 actually does is the control API, and then it extends the jQuery API. So for example, we can convert this one as a jQuery object, and afterwards we can use the control function of the UI5, and then we can have the 0, the first one, so, and then we get the control actually, not the DOM API. So we can use this functionality to reach your controls over the DOM. So if you just set it to C, and if you get the metadata, you can see that this is our label control. And then afterwards we can play around with what is the text of the. For example, we can call. We can make a lot of stuff after we reach the document DOM as a control object. This functionality helps us a lot. And here I would like to also show you. You can also, for example, just change the order of the elements here, so which is very. So you see the DOM and the changing. You can just. And the other feature is we can just edit. You can just edit as an HTML or as a text, and you don't need to change DOM immediately. You can even look into the stuff. For example, you can just edit the text here, and you can play around with it. This is one of the important features. So, for example, the other important thing here is when you have, for example, hover effect. It's not easy to debug if you have a custom styles on hover. So because when you get out the hover, then you will not be able to look into the details of, for example, CSS. Here for this item, I can have a look at the style of this element. Do it for the button, and here we can see a lot of design specific things, and if you have a custom styles on your control, you can have a look here, and sometimes it gets complicated to understand where the styles come from. So you can also look into here, for example, in this one, color function.
So you can have a look where the color function is coming from. So is it coming from the library or is it coming from your application? So you can have a look where the source is coming from. This is a very important feature. So the other thing, if you want to have check the hover, you can add this one as a hover, and now we can see that it gets grayed out. And now we can see the hover design actually. So these things are also very helpful. Or we can also have the focus and or active if there's any, for example, outline is applied to the control. These functionalities are quite useful. And what I would like to show you now, actually, you can also handle this a lot of things with using UI5 debugging helper. So let's close our debugging tool. And now let's press Ctrl Shift Alt and S together. And now we will see that the diagnosis of the UI5 is coming up. So here you can see a lot of technical information about your versions, which is very important to understand for you probably. And then the other thing is, of course, Tobias showed here that you can on and off the debug sources. And here you can see all the controls are used here in the application. I think one of the most important thing here is the control tree. Here you can see the control tree as you see in the UI5, as you see in the debugger, but we see it not a DOM tree, we see it as a control tree. So here, for example, we have a label control. There's a lot of control in here, so it's not getting easy. Okay. So when we press here, we can see that it gets highlighted. And we can have a look inside. There is another, there's a lot of controls open here. I think this is another view actually. Maybe we can open a dialog and we can have a look into the dialog. Okay, and dialog should be inside the static UI area. So we should know that. We know this by default. And here we know that the static UI area is here. Maybe after you open this one, it's better to close and open it again. And we can have a look. Okay, it's here. Okay, dialog. You see, we can see the dialog here, and it's inside. Our label is here. So if you want to, maybe I can make it. I can shrink. Here, for example, when I press the label, it gets highlighted, and you can see all the properties of the label here on the right-hand side. So sometimes, I mean, it's better than looking in the API documentation, so you can see everything, all the properties here, and it's also inherited properties also shown here. For example, we can play around with the design of the label. So we can make it bold here. So it's immediately shown. So this is a very great feature, or we can just change the text, and then we can immediately show the UI5 controls. And here is one of the other important things: is the binding information of the label does not have any binding info. We see that, but probably input should have it, so it has some suggestions. I think we can have a look. Okay, now we can see that the binding of the input control here, we highlighted it, and the binding is to the absolute path to the project. We can also have a look after the input, and we can play around with what the properties that inherit, for example, that comes from the input phase. It can change the width. The other very cool functionality is adding a breakpoint also to from the control tree. So for example, when we set to the, here you can see the G and the C is whenever we get the property, we will able to add a breakpoint. Or whenever we set the property, then we will hit to the breakpoint. So for example, let's change this one, and we add a breakpoint, and then now we can say, and when we change this type to the telephone, Okay, and now you see that our diagnosis tool is quite smart. It says that your debugger is not open, so we should open the debugger to see it. Let's put it down. Okay, now. Okay, maybe I should do it as a separate window here. No, too many windows. Okay, so here the resources panel, and our breakpoints here. Okay. Now just let's change the tech stack, and we see that the breakpoint is hit. So now we can see the stuff is ongoing on the call stack. Who is changing it? Currently we are changing from the dialog, and that's why it's not too many stuff. We are just injecting it. But you can add this breakpoints, and if any application source does, then we can hit a more call stack. So you can add more custom breakpoints actually. So for example, we can go to breakpoint section. Currently we see that set type is added, and we can here see all the functions, even it's in private functionalities. You see that started underscore. You can add an event for the events like fire change event. Let's do this one. And now we can go to here. And afterwards we change, and then we change the value. We see that breakpoint again hit. So we see that fire change event has the breakpoint. So you don't have to. You can use this tool for the firing and to make sure that everything is inserted and all the properties of the control. I think this is one of the most important features of the UI5 about this one. You can also see here if you have custom logs, you can also do it exactly for all the functionality of the app control, or you can even have a performance things for example, the duration of the XHR, and you can have a look on all of this one. There's a very nice documentation, and you should have a look afterwards.